So for the first thing we are going to be doing here, we would be starting from introduction to SNR, right? We'll be starting from introduction to SNR. So we'll be starting from introduction to SNR. So what is SNR? What is support and resistance? A support is a point in the market where you expect price to turn from and go up. Like if price is coming down, a support is somewhere you expect price to tap and what? Fly. And so there was a resistance is somewhere that you expect price to what? Tap and sell. So a support acts like a trampoline for the market, and then a resistance acts like a ceiling, right? So that's what support and resistance is. So now, ordinarily, support and resistance in the retail style, you know how they usually mark support and resistance as, an area that has rejected price multiple times, and then you expect price to what? Reject it again. This is for resistance, and this would be a support. In a retail method, this would be your resistance, this would be your resistance, and this would be what? Your support, right? Now, and then even in the retail method, once this support break, you expect what? The support to become what? A resistance for price to sell. And once the resistance break, you expect the resistance to become what? A support for price to buy. Now, this is exactly the same thing in SNR, right? The only thing is how the support and resistances we mark looks. So in SNR, we have various types of support and resistance, which we look at. We don't look at support and resistance as the retail way of just marking areas price has been bouncing up from. Now, what do we look out for as our SNR in Malaysian SNR? So in Malaysian SNR, we have multiple types of SNR. So we have the first type of SNR we have is what? The A's and V's. A's and V's. Right? This A's and V's, we have deals with two candles of different types, which is for the A's, we need what? A bullish candle, right? And a bearish candle. Now, a bullish candle and a bearish candle for the A. Now, how do you mark your resistance? The A stands for resistance, right? How do you mark your resistance? You mark your resistance using the closing price of the what? The previous candle. We have two candles. We have candle one, candle two, right? So you mark your what? Your resistance as the closing price of candle two. I mean of candle one, sorry, not candle two, candle one. Closing price of the bearish candle is here, right? Because if you have a candle, this is a candle, this is a bullish one, BU, and then a bearish one, BE, right? The bullish candle has its open below, has its close above, right? While the bearish one has its what? It's open above and it's close below. So when you want to mark your A resistance, what the first candle, which is your bullish one, the closing price, which is here, becomes what? Your support. Where you your resistance, where you expect price to what? Tap, it acts as the ceiling, so price doesn't go further up and it what? Sells. So this is what the A's look like. What? The A's, the resistance. This is what the A's look like, right? Now let's go to the V's. Like I said, you would need two candles as well for this. You would need two candles for this as well. So let's go to the V's. Now, you need what? The first one, the A's, we need what? A bullish candle followed by a bearish candle. For the V's, we need a bearish candle followed by what? A bullish candle, right? So this is a bearish candle. Let me paint it bearish. Okay. So then you have a bullish candle, right? Now, same thing, we deal with what? Closing price. So this is what? Candle one, and this is the candle two, right? Yeah. So we will do what? The closing price of the first candle. And you know, like we said, bearish candles, like in this model I gave you here, bearish candles close what? Below, the open above, close below. So the closing price of your bearish candle is what? Here, right? So this becomes your support. So when you expect price, so when price comes here, you expect what? Price to what? Bounce off of this as a support. So that is what? It for the A's and V's. We have the next style of support and resistance we have is what? The next style of support and resistance we have is what? Let's go for number two. The next style we have, two, is what? SPR slash RBS. Okay, so this is the next style of support and resistance we have. So this style of support and resistance, what does it do? How do we mark this style of support and resistance? Now, this is where you have a support, right? Right? Take this out. Okay, so this is where you have a support, right? This what? Bearish candle followed by what? Bullish candle, right? And then this is a support, right? Well, instead of price tapping this and what? Going up, right? Instead of price tapping and going up, price does this instead. Break it with a body closing below. Now, once it does this, the support what has been what broken. So once the support is broken, the next thing you expect is that this same line, this same closing price of this same candle, this same line will what? Stop being a support anymore, but what? Becomes a resistance now. So once price comes here, you expect what? Drop from there. So this is what the support that got broken became a resistance. Then we move on to the what? RBS. For the RBS, we need what? Bullish candle and what? Your bearish candle. So bullish and bearish, what? The closing price now. You are going to mark the closing price of what? The candle one, which is the one here, right? The bullish candle, which closes above. So closing price. Now you expect price to what? Tap and fall, but price does this instead. Breaks with the body closing above what? The closing price of this. So once it does that, what do you expect? This same line that was meant to be a resistance would what? Become what? A support. So this is one of the style of SNR we have. So now we go on to number three, right? Number three, we have the open close level. Open close. So open close levels is another type of what? Support and resistance in Malaysian scenario. But the open close level, now, unlike the A's and V's, which need two candles of different, a bearish and a bullish one, opposite side candles, the open close now needs two candles of the same type, right? Bullish, bullish, buy, buy, or what? Sell, sell. So for the support, you will need what? A bullish candle two times. So this is the first one and the second one. And just like before, this is what your first one and this is your second one. And just like before, we'll deal with what the closing price of candle one, the closing price, which is what bullish candles close above. Remember, so the closing price of candle one is what your level. So you expect once price come back here, you expect what a flight. You expect price to buy when it comes back here. And this is for the open close, right? And on the same note, we have what the bearish version of the open close. For the bearish version, you have what candle one and what candle two, right? And this is what candles of two candles of the same type, bearish, two candles of the same type. So what you mark what the closing price of candle one, which is what bearish candle, closing price below. So you mark that out and you expect once price come here, you expect what a sell. So this is what the third type of SNR level we have in Malaysian SNR. Then we move on to the fourth type, right? Fourth type. So let's go to the fourth type of SNR we have in Malaysian SNR. Yeah, so the fourth type of SNR we have is what? The left shoulder. Yeah, the left shoulder. So how do we know this left shoulder, right? Let's look at this. Let's say you have what? A support right here, bearish candle followed by bullish candle. So this is your support right here, right? And then you expect price to come here, tap this support and fly. But instead, price does this, breaks it. Now you expect price to use it now as what? Support become resistance. But instead, price what does another break. So now this area now, the closing price of this candle here becomes what your left shoulder. Price to tap and fly. And if I invert the chart for the bearish version, yeah, so you can see the bearish version of that here. But let me just erase and do it again. Okay. So now for the bearish version, we have what? Bullish candle, bearish candle, resistance, right? So you expect what price to sell to tap and sell, but price does what? Breaks it. Now you expect price to come here, tap and what buy, but price does what? Breaks it. Now you expect price to tap and what buy, but price does what? Breaks yet again. Now this area, this level here, this resistance line still becomes what? A resistance for a left shoulder. And this is what, these are the types of SNR we have in Malaysian SNR. These are the types of SNR we look at. These are the kind of SNR we mark as well. Yeah, and the last one we have, there's one more SNR. It's not really talked about that much, but it's used every time. And this one is, you know, open close break. So I'll just write it as OC breaks. Okay. So OC breaks is when you have what open close, buy candle. And instead of price to tap and buy, price what just breaks it, right? This same level becomes what a resistance. Was meant to be a support here, buy, but instead of price buying, price breaks, so it becomes what a resistance. This is an open close level. You understand? So moving on, like the bearish version of the open close level is this two candles, the closing price. Price is supposed to what tap and sell, but price what breaks it. So when price comes back, the resistance becomes a support. So this is another version of what support break become resistance and resistance break become support. Okay. So this is it for introduction to SNR. So now we all know what anybody who didn't know what an SNR or what Malaysian SNR was now has an understanding of what it is and how we mark our SNR level. And the reason we mark SNR levels from the body is because on the line chart, the reason we mark from the closing price is because on the line chart, right? The if you look at the line charts, the the opening price of candles doesn't exist on the line chart. So if I put this to the line chart, right? If I put this on the line chart, you can see this level right here, this A formation, you can see this A formation right here. If I mark it out and we look at the candlestick, you'd see that my line was actually from what? From the closing price of the bullish candle. If I put my line on the opening price of the bearish candle, okay, if I put my line on the opening price of the bearish candle, right, you can see the line chart. It doesn't exist, right? So only closing prices exist. So you put it on the closing price of the bullish candle, and you can see it on there. So this is why we use the line charts for marking our levels. So this is a good example of the A formation, right? A bullish candle followed by a bearish candle. And you can see what price would do from an A formation. Very, very, very nice. And then this is a V formation. This is a V formation here. Bearish candle followed by what? Bullish candle. Bearish candle closing price. The closing price of the bearish candle is my entry. You can see a proper V formation, just like that. V formation. Yeah, proper V formation right there, as you can see. So if I put my line on the opening price of the bullish candle, if I look at the line chart, you can see it doesn't exist. So line chart doesn't show the opening prices of candles, only shows the closing prices. So that's why we use closing prices in Malaysian SNR. Only the closing prices of the previous candle is what used for the level. And if you look at the current trade I have here, this one, the current trade I have here is a good example of support break become resistance. Support is, okay, support, V formation, right? V formation, right? Bearish candle, bullish candle, V formation, and what? Instead of price to buy, price what? Breaks it with the body closing. So it becomes what? Resistance for price to use in selling. So you can see, so, and it's holding so far. So this is the introduction to SNR, which is the first thing on our outline, which is introduction to SNR. I know that a lot of you guys already know this, like, but some people might not know. That's why I have to go through this. Yeah, a lot of you guys already know how to mark your SNRs properly and all the SNR levels. You guys are conversant with them. But I just decided to do this so that, for those who don't know. So we'll be moving on to the next thing on the outline, which is on what the storyline, which is actually the first official topic I'm going to be teaching, right? The storyline. So what is your storyline? The storyline is used to determine the market direction. So storyline, you have three time frame that they mostly use for storylines, but I personally use two. Two time frames for storyline. Two time frames. Two time frames. I use the what? The daily time frame and the what? The weekly time frame. Now, how does a storyline start? How does a storyline start? For a storyline to start, you need a time frame. Then you need what? A support or a resistance. Then you need a rejection and a breakout. So let's get into that. So for a storyline to start, you need what? A time frame. Like I said, we use two time frames, daily and weekly. So the time frame you're looking at is what the time frame that the storyline is starting on. So if you have a daily time frame, right, and then you need what the next thing is what you need a support or a resistance. Let's say you need to have a support, right? Then what do you need next? A rejection. Price comes to the daily support you marked out and rejects it. What do I mean by rejection? As you have a support, price close above your support, not closing below your support, closes above your support, right? The wick could be very long, the wick could be long, the wick of the candle could be long down, or it could be just sniper and reject. But the main thing is as far as it rejects what the support, that's the main concern. So after your rejection, then you need what? A breakout. Now this breakout should happen one time frame below. So if you have your time frame is the daily, you have your daily support and you have what? Your daily rejection, which is daily reject, daily support, right? Right? If you have that, right, and you want to see your breakout, it should happen one time frame below, which is if you have this on the daily, right? While price is coming down to this daily, it must have definitely done what? Created some highs and lows. And each of these highs and lows now has A's and V's, right? So the last A resistance that was created before price taps your daily, if price breaks it with a body closing above it, the storyline has just turned bullish. That is daily bullish storyline. And same way for the bearish storyline. If you have a daily resistance, just like this, right? Then you need your what? Your rejection. And after your rejection, on the 4-hour time frame, while price was coming to your resistance, you definitely have price do something like this. Price breaks the last V formation with a body close. It becomes what? A bearish storyline. Now flip it. If this was the weekly, right? Yes, A and V's. Price don't break open close to start a storyline. No, it has to be A and V's, A and V formations only. So if this was like the weekly, right? Then this one time frame below where you want to see your break would be what? The daily, right? So let's look at some chart examples of storylines to help you understand better. Look at some chart examples of storylines. Okay, let's go back on the chart. Wow, gold is really respecting this zone properly. Okay. Let's look at the daily. So now, like I said, we need what? Three things to start our storyline. I mean, four things. We need what? The time frame. We need the support. We need the rejection, then the breakout. The breakout happens one time frame below. So we have this here. We have a daily. What is this? A daily support, right? Mark the daily support out. Then what? Go down to the lower time frame. Mark the daily support out, and then we have what? This is a daily time frame, right? So what we need, we need what? a time frame, and we have our time frame daily, right? D1. Then you need the next thing you need is what? Your the next thing you need is what? Your support. And you have what? Your support. You have an open close OC, and then you need your rejection. You can see price as rejected. So your rejection, yes, your the rejection. So yes, we had a rejection on it. So price has rejected. So what's the last thing you need to see to confirm your storyline? You need to see price turn what? Break out on one time frame below. So go one time frame below, 4-hour time frame. Now, where is your last A formation before price taps? The last A formation before price tapped this daily support. The last A formation was here. So the bullish storyline from here only started when price broke this place with the body close. Now, I know you might be wondering that then why do I have to wait for days for price to break here? Like I'll miss out all this move. Yes, you don't use the open close say okay, price break and open close. No, that's not what you use to confirm your your storyline. You use a break of what? An A formation resistance or a V formation support in case of a bearish storyline. So this is a bullish storyline. So we need what? A break of an A formation resistance. So price has broke it with this candle here. Price broke with this candle here. Now, after this break, this becomes what? A full-fledged bullish storyline on the daily time frame. Now, how you will be able to take advantage of these moves before confirming the storyline is something you're going to learn when we get to structure and liquidity. It's not for now. It's something you would learn from structure and liquidity, right? For now, we're just looking at storyline, how they start and how they end, and everything about storyline is what we are going to be doing for now, right? So you don't have to think about entries or whatever. Just know how to understand and spot storylines. How storylines starts and how they end should be the main priority right now. It shouldn't be about how to enter trades, right? Okay. So that would be the start of a bullish storyline. Now, how would you start a bearish storyline? Let's look at it. Okay, for a bearish storyline to start, like I said, we need what? A daily to reject the daily and what? A breakout. So this is a daily, the kind of support of the last kind of scenario I talked about here. We have what? Buy, right? Buy, bullish support, right? Then price breaks it. Then what? This support becomes what? Resistance, right? The last kind of scenario I talked about. You guys remember? Okay, so we have it right here. Then we have what? Daily reject daily on the first side. But this daily reject daily. Now, if I put the chart right here, you can see we rejected daily the first touch. Now let's go down to the 4-hour time frame for our breakout. Now, if you put it back right there, where we had the first rejection, if you put the chart right there, okay. After this rejection, what was the last V formation before price tapped our daily level? It was here. So this V formation needs to break for price to what? To confirm and start a storyline, right? This V formation has to break for price to confirm and start a storyline. This V formation. But that was not the case because, like I said before, a zone on the daily or the weekly is fresh until a storyline starts from it. So if we have a daily and price rejects from that daily, but never broke out, so there was no storyline confirmed, that daily can still be rejected again. right? And now once it gets rejected again, the last A or V formation that was created before price rejected it for the second time would be the level you should look out for your break. So let's go back on the daily. So on the daily, like you can see here, on the daily, after this first rejection, right, it didn't start a storyline. So because the storyline didn't start from this first rejection, what did price do? We rejected yet again. Now, when we reject again, right, remember from the first zone, we need price to what? To break here. We needed price to break here to confirm a storyline from the first rejection, right? Now, from the second rejection, who can tell me where you need price to break to confirm your storyline this time around? From this second rejection now, where does price need to break to confirm a storyline? Is it still here? Does price still need to break here to confirm a storyline? Exactly. Now, price will break what? The most recent one that was formed before price tapped the second time. The one that was formed before price tapped this for the second time. This one becomes where now once this one breaks, storyline changes from bullish to bearish, and what you can now start looking for sales. And like we all know, storyline only ends the way it starts. So we have what if a daily storyline starts, if you have a daily storyline start from here, price would buy until what a daily resistance, right? Only a daily resistance and end the daily bullish storyline. Storylines only end the way they start. So the end of this bullish storyline would be the start of a bearish storyline, right? Yeah. So now, how would you know which daily levels will start the new storyline for you? All those things depend on when we start what looking at market structure and liquidity. You would learn how to do all of that. But for now, just know that this is how storylines work. Storylines go from daily to daily, weekly to weekly. A weekly bearish storyline cannot end on a daily support. It doesn't work like that. A weekly bearish storyline would go all the way down to what a daily to what a weekly support before it starts a weekly bullish storyline, which would end the weekly bearish storyline that was previously holding, right? So if you have a weekly bullish storylines, the daily supports will only start storylines that could act as retracements. So if, let me say, you have what a weekly resistance here, weekly support here, right? Then price starts a weekly. Okay. Then price starts what a weekly bearish storyline from here, reject and daily breakout, right? Now, can the daily support that would be in between, because from here to here on the weekly, you definitely have dailies. Yeah, will the daily supports in between this resistance and weekly support be able to end the weekly bearish storyline? No. The weekly bearish storyline must get to what the weekly support before it starts the weekly bullish storyline. It must get here and start the weekly bullish that can end the weekly bearish. If not, the weekly remains bearish, right? So the daily support can just start storylines that can help to what retrace price, retrace price, retrace price, retrace price, retrace price until price gets here and what everything changes. So the daily levels will be known as what roadblocks. Roadblocks. I'll just call that RB, roadblocks, right? They're like obstacles along the way to the target. And on the 4 hour level, on the daily storylines, if this was a daily, all this would be what? 4 hours. The roadblock would be 4 hours. So now, if you want to counter the daily, you can what? Look for what? 4 hour levels and what? Take buys from that can what? Counter what the daily is doing, right? But those 4 hour levels cannot start a new storyline. Price must get to the what? To the daily level before it starts a new storyline. So if you're trading from a 4 hour level, you can't expect the storyline to start. Okay, someone is asking, can I explain today? Okay, let me use today's cell to give you storylines examples. Let me use today's cell to explain storylines for you guys, if you guys will be able to understand that. So let's go to today's cell. Okay, so this is today's cell from here, right? So how do I, let me explain using storyline. So go to the daily. So we had what? A daily support right here. Sell, buy, right? And it was what? Fresh, not tested, fresh. Yeah. So price came here, taps our daily support right here. After we tap our daily support right here, go down to the 4 hours, and what? There was a breakout because we tapped, rejected, and then there was a breakout from right here. There was a breakout from right here, right? The last A formation before price tapped the support was broken out from right there, right? So after that, we confirmed what bullish storyline. So daily storyline is full-fledged bullish right now, and price is what? Buying. So when price is buying, how do I take trades in counter? How do I counter the daily storyline? Because daily storyline now is bullish, right? And if you notice, my sell wasn't from any daily resistance. You can see there was no daily resistance around here. The closest daily resistance was this daily open close break become support. I mean, open close support break become resistance, but it was all the way here, and my entry was from here. So why? Because this entry, we have a 4 hour level, which is this buy, open close break become what? Support break become resistance, open close version. So this 4 hour level, right, can act as what? My roadblock, because if the bullish storyline, if the bullish storyline was to last till this level here, like I said, you would have what? Roadblocks on one time frame below, in between what? The support and the resistance. So if this was the daily, I have a 4 hour level here. This 4 hour level here cannot change the storyline. Price has to get to daily resistance before the storyline changes, right? But I can sell here because what? This is like a counter trade for the daily. I'm countering the daily bullish storyline. And then, you fuse in liquidity and market structure because what? I have liquidities to target down here. So I want to sell, target my liquidities. And then before I go back to trading in the original storyline of the market, right? I can't go into details of the entries of this trade, but this is just the what? The bias of how this trade came up. Okay. Let me give you guys the whole bias as to why I took the sell, right? So let me give you guys the bias for the sell, why I took the sell in terms of direction, right? So now, no, no, 4 hour doesn't have a storyline, right? Storyline is from the what? The daily and the weekly, right? 4 hour, I don't know, I don't know what is a 4 hour storyline, right? If you make your findings, you backtest it, and you see that maybe there's something like that works, and you put it into your strategy, that's fine. But personally, I don't use a 4 hour storyline, right? So why did I take this sell? Why did I even think of selling? Why did I think of taking a sell? So this is it. The daily storyline is bullish. We started a bullish storyline from down here after we broke out from here, right? After rejecting this support, right? Good. So to a daily storyline is bullish. Let's write it down. Daily bullish, right? So daily is bullish, right? So let's talk about what. So why am I selling? Now, if the daily storyline is bullish, right? Buys is what? Pro trend. Sells becomes counter. Counter trend, right? Because what you're trying to counter the the, the storyline. So since the daily is in a bullish storyline, right? And I'm buying, and I'm selling. Why did I sell? Like I said before, if a storyline starts, it can only end when a new one starts. And for a new storyline to start on the daily, we need a daily resistance, right? Then what? Then what? A daily resistance, then a rejection and a breakout. This is what we need for a new storyline to start. And that new one starting would be the end of this bullish storyline, right? But then, like I said before, that if you have the support that starts the storyline and the resistance that starts the support, and the resistance that should end the storyline, right? Pardon me for, I'm just, yeah. And the resistance that should end the storyline, right? We have the support that started, the resistance that should end, right? On the lower time frames, you're going to have what? Resistances all the way. Now, like I said before, the storyline must end the way it started. So it must end with the start of a new one. So if this is a daily storyline, it should end with the start of a what? A new daily storyline. So a daily bullish storyline would end when the daily bearish storyline starts, right? And for the daily bearish storyline to start, we need to have what? A daily resistance in place, right? So the 4 hour resistance is in between this daily support and the daily resistance cannot end the storyline. Rather, they can give you what? Roadblocks for counter trades, right? Now, not all of them are going to have a reaction. Not all of them. You know, price could just boom and only react on the last one. You feel me? So now, knowing the ones you are going to try to sell from will depend on market structure and liquidity, as well as knowing the daily level that you would want to see the storyline end from. Also depends on what market structure and liquidity. So those topics are for upper weeks, right? This week is for storyline. So just talking about storyline now. So this is what? Roadblock. So the roadblock, right, would enable you what? Are like obstacles in between here. It's just like, let me say, for instance, you're traveling, right, from your house, you want to go see your grandma, and along the line, your grandma's house is what? Grandma's house, your house, then grandma's house, right? Grandma's house is what? Final destination. But on the way to grandma's house, you stop to, to buy fuel, right? To buy some petrol. You stop to eat. Then you stop to use the toilets. Those are your roadblocks, right? You stop to pick up a friend, all these things. But these things will not stop you from getting to grandma's house, right? You will keep going till you get to grandma's house, right? That is exactly how it is with what? Storylines starting from here and ending here, right? These ones are just what? Obstacles and distractions in between the start and the end of the storyline, right? They won't stop the storyline from getting to where it should end, right? But they can what? Provide temporary bearish movement. Now, this bearish movement, what would pull back, will push price to levels where you can what? Take more buys from, right? Now, how you will do all of that depends on what? Structure and liquidity. Now, this was my bias for taking this trade. The daily storyline was bullish, but I wanted to sell because what? There was what? A 4 hour level, and I wanted to take from that 4 hour level. Now, why I took from that 4 hour level now is what? A question that market structure and liquidity would answer, right? Why I took from there is a question that market structure and liquidity would answer. Now, let me quickly and even the fact that I took from there still doesn't make it, the best or the right trade to take. But you can see the reaction from there. I think price has dropped about 400 pips. You know, you could still cash out good way from it, even if I was targeting down here. let's say, and I was wrong with my targets, right? You can see the reaction still there, right? Because I picked the right level to counter from. If you pick to counter from, let me say you want to counter from this resistance from here. If you tried countering here, or you tried countering here, you would have been stopped out outright. You feel me? So now, me countering from there is what? The best level. And why is it the best level? Those things are questions for market structure and liquidity. Like if you look right here, if you look right here, this is what a daily resistance. I'm not saying this is the resistance to end the storyline, no, but this is the closest daily resistance. So I just marked it out, daily resistance. And this is what this daily support where we started this daily support where we started the storyline from. Now, this is the closest daily support. Now, inside our daily support, we still have what? Resistances everywhere and this. Now, these resistances we have, you can see this one, right? It gave a move, right? From this daily resistance, even if price kind of gave us a weird closure, you can see the impact. Now, all of this in a bearish story, I mean, in a bullish storyline, we have all of these resistances to counter from. Now, if you understand market structure and understand liquidity, you will know which ones are the best ones to actually play from, right? Or let me just give you an example of how I took from my own level, why I took from the level I took from today. Let me give you an example of why I did that. Now, looking at this daily storyline. Now, bullish storyline on the daily, right? That one is noted, right? So that was why the foundation for my bias is what we are in a bullish storyline. So if I want to sell, I'll be taking what counter sells from 4-hour levels. Now, why did I take myself? Go down to the 1 hour time frame. Let me show you something. Okay. Okay. On the 1 hour time frame, you can see that we had what a break of structure from here, right? Break this structure as well as this structure. You can see, let me just give you a diagrammatic view of that. So this was like a double break of structure, break of here, break of here. Yeah. Even though market structure is for upper weeks, but let me just give it so you can understand how you would put the storyline and market structure together, right? Now, after seeing this now, then I marked out this liquidity. Then I went to the 2 hour time frame. And if you look at the 2 hour time frame, you can see it better on the 2 hour time frame that after my break of structure, liquidity, what's the closest level to my liquidity is not here. Not here, because if you don't know your right break of structure, you would mark the wrong level. Because if price breaks structure like this, if price breaks structure like this and give you a liquidity, right? Price would pull back into the structure it broke before it sells. So if there's another level, let me say here that broke and you mark this as your liquidity and you try to take from something closer to here, you get stopped out. So if that's what's confusing most people on as to why I chose the higher level and not levels closer to your, yeah, price has to pull into the structure it broke. So from here, after breaking out from here, if you mark this as your break of structure, right, and you mark this one as your liquidity, and then you try to take from this support break, become resistance, you will get stopped out. You will get stopped out. So this is what break of structure. So this is my liquidity. Now the closest one within my structure point is what this what support break become resistance. That was the only reason. And then go to the 4 hour MTF 4 hour level. I could see that okay, it's also a 4 hour zone. So that was the only reason for this level being my sell zone, right, to counter the daily. And that was the only reason. The same setup every single time. Once you understand the bias, right, once you understand the bias, understand why you want to take from there based off of storyline, which part of the storyline are we? Are we countering? Are we going pro trend? Are we anticipating a new storyline? Whatever thing you want that you are anticipating from the storyline, you can know how to what look out for that on the smaller time frame with market structure, right? Yeah, I was looking out for a counter trend. Then I was able to what look at a break of structure and the level to enter from, and I was able to take that using the same thing, the same logic every day. So that's just it. And you can see how price played out perfectly from there. And so far, price has dropped how many pips from there? Okay, yes, you can annotate. Let me see what you want to see. So far, we have done so far we have done how many pips? 420, 420 pips. This is more than enough, right? 420 pips, I mean, that's a lot of pips. You can see. So even if price doesn't hit your main target or your main objective, 420 pips is a lot. But one other reason I'm targeting this area is because there's so much liquidity is down here to be moved out. You have a lot of liquidity down here, and part of those liquidities is if you go to if you go to Wanda, yeah, you can see this gap here. This gap has to be filled. Price has to come back. Price gapping up in price like this is the liquidity that price should fill. If you check wherever price gaps, it always comes back to fill that. So that's another thing. So price has to come down there. That's another reason price has to come down. See, okay. Unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. You can unmute yourself and annotate and ask a question.
Yeah, bro, I have got a doubt regarding storyline.
Yes?
So, just 1 minute. If we were taking this H4 storyline,
Yes.
suppose this is our point A, what would be our point B? Would it be this one or would we consider this one?
Like, I don't get your question. Please, could you rephrase? Like, if this was a H4 storyline or what?
Yeah, if we were trading H4 storyline.
Like I said
So,
before, bro, like H4 to me, I don't use H4 for storylines. You
no,
understand?
this is just a scenario, bro. This is just a
Okay, like
scenario.
if
You can
this
consider it as a daily as well.
okay, like if this was a daily,
Yeah. So
if
this
this
is a
was a
point
daily,
A.
if this was a daily, right? If this was a daily, do you mean the storyline the daily would be in if this was a daily?
No, my doubt is what would be the point B? If this is a point A, then uh,
Point A
would
as
would
point
this
A
be a
as in
point B
point A as in entry point or what?
starting point of the storyline, of the bearish storyline?
Okay. Now,
Yeah,
let
so
me say,
what
if
would
this
be a
was a, a
yeah.
daily, a daily, like if this was a daily, right?
Yeah.
The storyline on this daily would be bullish because the last daily reject daily would be here. Daily reject is daily support here. And then after that, there was no other bearish rejection. There was no bearish, there was no bearish rejection after that. And then we would still be bullish and buying upwards. If you check this, there was no rejection from here because even this zone, what, slightly broken. So you can't call that a rejection. Price closed above the resistance.
I get it, bro. I get it.
Yeah.
Just a hypothetical situation. So
Yes.
suppose this is a point of origin, and one time frame below the market broke a V. All
Yes.
right. So we will consider the end of the storyline from the CMP, the first left over here, or this one, because both this one is nearest and this one is over here. So which one will be considered? That's my doubt.
What you mean is the one that would end the storyline.
Exactly.
All right, I wasn't understanding what you were saying. All right, now I
Yeah.
understand you.
Yeah.
Okay, can you clear your annotation, please?
Yeah, sure.
The one that will end the storyline depends on market structure. Like I said before, it depends on liquidity and market structure. I said this previously. I did. I said this previously that that will be left for market structure class, right? That will be left for market structure class. Like if you look at this, let me just say this is an example, right? If you're looking at this, right, and you wanted to know, okay, if I sell here, where would end? You could use this and say, all right, if price was going to clear off all these liquidities, then sell from here, clear off all these liquidities. Levels below this liquidity would be where I would expect price to start a new storyline.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on market structure and liquidity, and that's not the topic we are on for now. We are on just storyline, understanding what it is, how they start, how they end, you get, and how to be flexible with storylines. That's what we are on now. When we get to the point where we start talking about market structure, liquidities, then I'll tell you how you can use storyline properly to
All
catch
right.
the best trades ever. You feel me? But now I'm just telling you about how you can, get yourself a bias for your trade. Like if you want to go pro trend, counter trend, how you can know which bias am I taking? Am I buying? Am I selling? How to know that? I'm not yet on the level of teaching you how to know which level is going to hold, right? Because which level is going to hold depends on liquidity. That is for liquidity class, right? Which
But
level?
at which point would you be looking for a reversal structure for the storyline to end?
For me personally, like I said before, I want to see
Yeah.
price fill up the gaps it left down here on other brokers, right? There are some big gaps down here. I want to see price fill those gaps. Those are like liquidities. Now, if I want to see those gaps get filled up, now, what does it mean? Simply means that if this was 4 hour and I want to see those gaps get filled up before I buy, simply means that I'll be looking out for, let me say, levels like here or here to start my storyline.
Okay.
Yeah. Even like me, what I can see on gold right now, I think we might be having a sell on gold right now, but I don't want to get into a trade again. I'm just looking at it because if you watch properly, you can see we had this and then this liquidity. So you just find your entry, just find your entry. That's all. And then this is what the New York session as well. So on the 5 minute time frame, we had this. You can use this as your entry point, whatever. This is also a very, very good if you get me trade, but I don't want to take a trade right now. I'm just watching it. So I'm just watching right now. Yeah. So I guess the storyline questions have been cleared, right? We're going to dissect storylines properly on Saturday and Sunday. We'll talk about storylines properly by then. Now it's just introduction to the class. by Saturday, Sunday, we'll talk properly about storylines and every other thing relating to them and how they start and how they end and blah blah blah. Is that clear? Is that clear? But today I just gave you guys the okay. For today I just gave you guys the reason for the sell in terms of the bias. I was looking at what I was looking at in terms of my bias for the sell, right? I had liquidities below, so I know price has to take those liquidities out. So for price to take out those liquidities, what needs to happen? Price has to sell, but we are bullish. So it means that what I have to go counter trend, right? So if I'm going to go counter trend, where do I take it from? Then I take from the um then I look at market structure to tell me that break of structure, liquidity level, and just simple stuff like that. All right, guys. I will send the recording on the group later. So our next class is Saturday, same time. So we're going to have a class Saturday, Sunday, then Monday, then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no class. Saturday, Sunday, Monday class. So that's it. So next class is Saturday, 3 days a week. So next class is Saturday, so we can meet again on Saturday. So you can prepare whatever questions you might have, just put them down because Saturday is the day I'm going to dissect the storylines properly for you guys to understand. And I hope everybody would be present on Saturday to understand everything. So I'll just send out the recording later on the group for those who are not around for the session. Then for those of you who are around, you can also put down your questions and things I would talk about on Saturday. All right, let me end the session.